So right from the jump with this Deshaun Watson stuff, it was already weird. It was a guy that was under contract who was essentially going through free agency, and it's not like he was under a small contract. His contract was one of the biggest in NFL history at the time that he signed it, and it really hadn't even kicked in yet by the time he ended up getting traded this past weekend. So he had narrowed his teams down, and we had gone through about a week of waiting to see who Deshaun Watson was going to decide. Which teams was he going to put into his final 2 and 3, and then who did he want to play for? And what were those teams going to give up for the Houston Texans? We had 4, which then got cut down to 2, the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. And then like a ship in the night, the Cleveland Browns came out of nowhere, off the top rope, knocked out the Falcons, knocked out the Saints, RKO'd one of them, 1, 2, 3. Deshaun Watson now belongs to the Cleveland Browns. And here's why I'm stuck on this situation. I am what is known as a middle guy. That's not an official name. I'm rolling with it because I don't like political terms, and I'm not going to describe myself as a term that's associated with politics, because there are 2 things I hate in life: politics and labels. But I'm a guy that tends to ride the middle when it comes to polarizing things in society. And the reason is, I oftentimes feel like if you are the extreme of one side on a specific scenario, you often miss what is right in front of you. And I think the best in almost everything is found in the middle. But with Deshaun Watson, my basic life ideology is tough to come to, because there's not really a middle ground with him. This legal stuff somewhat got settled. It got settled to the point where there's going to be no criminal charges, which in talking with some lawyer friends was a huge win for Deshaun Watson and his camp, but it really didn't end this whole thing. It's a win for him, but this is still very much an ongoing process. Yet everybody in the NFL, once the criminal charges were cleared, decided they're going to go full steam ahead with Deshaun Watson. But there's no middle ground in this, because he either did what he's being accused of or he didn't. And that's where I struggle right now, because I can see it from both sides. This is the reason that I tend to fall in the middle with a lot of these things. I look at both sides of the argument and then I find the middle ground. But there's no middle here. He either is guilty of what he is accused of, there was not consent in the sexual activity. I can say sex on this podcast now. I don't know if I can do that on radio. But Deshaun Watson is saying that there was consent in the happy endings he was receiving from these massage therapists, and the massage therapists are saying, no, there was not consent. There's no middle ground there. There's nothing for me to latch onto that says I can hold to this, and I think both are right. Because they're not. One side is right, the other side is not. And I don't love the justice system in America. I really don't. There are a lot of things. I love this country, but there are a lot of things that I think this country could and should improve on. The justice system certainly has its flaws, but I do believe in the principle of innocent until proven guilty. But I can also recognize why there are some hardships in proving guilt in this situation. Because Deshaun Watson is a very powerful guy. He's a public figure with a ton of notoriety and a ton of resources that he can utilize to defend his name. So I recognize the hurdles that you would have to jump over if you are accusing Deshaun Watson of doing what he did. And that's a tough thing. And I can see from the victim's perspective, I mean, there's a good chance, if we're going to be honest here, 22 women, that's a starting defense and a starting offense. 22 women. There's a good chance that at least one or two of them might be lying. They might be fabricating the truth. I mean, hell, you could even say half of them. You could say that the defense in this scenario or the offense in this scenario, even if 11 are stretching the truth, they're exaggerating something, they're not being fully upfront and honest, even if 11 of them are doing that, that means 11 of them are, which means there were 11 victims. And I think it's very tough. It's very tough to come to the conclusion that all 22 are lying. And unless all 22 are lying, Deshaun Watson is guilty of wrongdoing. He is guilty of taking advantage of people that he shouldn't have been taking advantage of. And that's where I come to this struggle, because I can understand from the victim's perspective that if they felt like they were wronged, if they were made uncomfortable in any way by somebody that was exercising a power that they don't have, he was utilizing leverage that the average citizen does not have, I can see where they're coming from and being like, yo, dog, what the hell's going on? Like, why is this guy getting one of the biggest contracts in the history of the NFL again after we have poured our hearts out, after we have gone through this story and put it out for everybody to criticize and to judge, and people aren't even going to read the entire story from the side of the victims. They've already made their mind up when it comes to Deshaun Watson, but I can also see from his perspective where he should be viewed as innocent until proven guilty, because the unfortunate reality of what is today's society is that there are going to be people that are going to view Deshaun Watson as a guy that has a lot of money, and they're going to want their cut of that money. And that's not even getting into the fact that he's having like 40 different massage therapists during a pandemic. Like, that's weird. That's a weird thing that he did on a consistent basis, which leads me to believe, again, that I'm siding more with the victim than I am with Deshaun Watson. But that's not something that really works in the court of law. And the court of law is really what got Deshaun Watson this contract, what got him his exit from the Houston Texans, and got him what he wanted. He got him a fresh start, a lot of money, and the way that Cleveland negotiated his contract in the first year of the deal, his base salary is $1 million. His base salary is $1 million. And the reason for it is because the Browns know he's going to get suspended. Because Deshaun Watson knows he is going to get suspended. Because forget the legal system for a second. In the National Football League, Roger Goodell is judge, jury, and executioner. I don't like that he has that power, but he does. And they haven't, in past CBA negotiations, they haven't negotiated that power away from him. So Deshaun Watson's going to get suspended. We just don't know for how long. We have a sample size with the Ben Roethlisberger stuff, with some stuff from other players that certainly didn't have the name value of Deshaun Watson in the past. But he's going to get suspended. And he's not going to lose that much money in his suspension, because when you get suspended in the NFL, the only money you're losing comes out of your base salary. So his base salary is $1 million. If you're curious, his base salary for the remainder of that contract is about $46 million per year. So the Browns know. Deshaun Watson knows. And I think that's what separated Cleveland from everybody else in this, because remember, they weren't in the final two. And then I think they came to the agent and Deshaun Watson, his camp, and said, listen, not only will we make you one of the highest paid guys to ever play in this league, we will help you so when you get suspended and fined, you're not losing as much money as some of these other teams when they negotiate your contract. And the Browns tried to defend themselves. And let me tell you something. When you try and defend yourself in the National Football League, it really doesn't work that well. And boy, did they screw this up. Boy, did they not do what they were supposed to do in their statement. They released a statement after trading for Deshaun Watson. It was long, so if you didn't read it, please listen to my soothing voice as I read it to you. It says, and I quote, this is from Dee and Jimmy Haslam, the owners of the Browns here. We spent a tremendous amount of time exploring and investigating the opportunity to trade for Deshaun Watson. We are acutely aware and empathetic to the highly personal sentiments expressed about this decision. Our team's comprehensive evaluation process was of the utmost importance due to the sensitive nature of his situation and the complex factors involved. We also understand there are still some legal proceedings that are ongoing, and we will respect due process. It was pivotal that we, along with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, met with Deshaun Watson to have a straightforward dialogue, discuss our priorities, and hear directly from him on what he wants to approach his career on how he wants to approach his career on and off the field. He was humble, sincere, and candid. In our conversations, Deshaun detailed his commitment to leading our team. He understands and embraces the hard work needed to rebuild his name both in the community and on the field. Those in-depth conversations, the extensive evaluation process, his dedication to being a great teammate, and devotion to helping others within the NFL, within the community, and through his charitable initiatives provided the foundation for us to pursue Deshaun. We are confident in Deshaun and excited about moving forward with him as our quarterback and supporting his genuine and determined efforts. End of statement. Does that make you feel any better? Because admittedly, it doesn't really make me feel any better. This was a long, multi-sentence, really could have been cut up into a couple of paragraphs. This was a long way of saying something that we've been making fun of for 2 years now that we have been in a pandemic for 2 years. This was the Browns saying we have done our own research. Now, I can't believe I'm about to be the guy that I'm about to be. I had told myself when I was in middle school and high school, I would never utter the phrase that I'm about to utter because I hated when it got thrown at me by my math teachers. But here I am in 2022, how the turntable. I would like the Browns to show their work. I have seen the end result of the equation. Show us your work. How did you get to the result that you got to? You went through an extensive evaluation process. What was that evaluation process? I have a feeling that it involves some numbers. A little bit of number crunching here, a little bit of number crunching there, and a lot of Mr. Krabs dollar sign eyes with the people that are in charge of the money in Cleveland, because Deshaun Watson provides them a much better chance to win than Baker Mayfield does. But what was this research that you did? What sources do you have that local police departments, and really now this has become a national thing, what do you have that the government doesn't? I don't like the government that much. I think they do a bad job at their job. But what resources does Cleveland have in this investigation process that the government and the court systems don't? Don't come out here beating your chest. We did extensive evaluation. Your extensive evaluation is talking to Deshaun Watson. Spoiler alert. Deshaun Watson is not going to be like, yeah, I did everything that I'm accused of. Everything that you hear about me, all the bad things, it is all true. That is not a good negotiating tactic for getting a huge contract and playing football again. So your conversations with Deshaun Watson, while they could have been great, they're one-sided. And that's not how research is done. You're supposed to get both sides. You are supposed to be what I am, which is a guy, or an entity in this case, that rides the middle. You talk to one side, you talk to the other side, and then you evaluate. You cannot just talk to Deshaun Watson, and notice how they flipped that to football like 4 different times there. You don't need to sell Deshaun Watson as a quarterback. Anybody that is under the belief that Deshaun Watson isn't a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield is batshit crazy. I can swear now on this podcast. I love that. I'm not going to cuss a ton, but I love that I can do that. Anybody that thinks Baker Mayfield is better than Deshaun Watson is completely out of their mind, but that's not what this is about. This is about the off-the-field stuff. It's what it's always been about. I don't think Cleveland, I think they had an idea how that statement was gonna portray them, and I think it did the complete and the total opposite. But this is the new reality. Deshaun Watson, handsomely paid, and he's going to be playing football for the Cleveland Browns sooner rather than later. And once that legal stuff gets settled, once the suspension gets settled, this is where I become a hypocrite. I can't wait to see him play. The AFC North, it's not the AFC West. I mean, that division, talk about stacked. But the AFC North now has Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. And damn it if I'm not excited to see how that plays out this upcoming season and then for many seasons to come.